Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and thanks to YouTube's MrUigobb, I am here with a review of the Deluxe Knockout from Prime's RID Wave 3. This is one of my favorite characters from the show, and in honor of his fantastic personality, I'll be spiffing up with some high-end accoutrements. This car mode is such a mixed bag. Physically it's fine, with a good shape to its chassis. The size does seem a bit small at first, but alongside fellow Prid toys, he balances out. What's deceptive is how, despite all of his paint, he looks very unpainted. You see all that dark maroonish coloring? It's all paint. The silver airbrushing and gold hood accents make up almost all the rest of the paint budget on his alt mode, and unfortunately, it just doesn't pull things off. None of it is glossy, leaving Knockout looking uncharacteristically drab. With nothing on his hubcaps and a completely undetailed rear end, our automotive fashionista's alt mode just falls short in the color department. He also falls short in the destructive vehicosity department. You can plug his weapon onto his vehicle mode like this. That's about it. If you want, and really want to switch things up, or if that doesn't work for you, you can also plug it onto the other side. And you can have it sticking straight out, like some kind of, weird car jousting deal, which he would never do, because it's only sticking this far off the front of the car, so he'd totally be almost smacking right into other cars. And this is Knockout. We don't want to mess up his finish. He doesn't want to mess up his finish. You can also bend it up, which looks stupid, or you can do that. It doesn't look good in this mode, and you can't even kind of even out the aesthetics, because you pull this part off and try to stick it on here. There's no way to stick it on there. There's no peg. This whole deal kind of, I don't like it. Let's go on to the transformation. I love this transformation, but you probably will want to throw the instruction sheet in a drawer as soon as possible. It's got some fantastic variants with a simple leg formation moving into the intricate ways that the arms and torso come together. There's a great amount of foldable mass packed into Knockout's car mode, and I love seeing it arise into his fabulous form. This thing's kind of a hot mess if you try to follow the instructions, so to make things clearer, you pull the chest down like this, you disengage these two things, then you pull this tab down and forward in a way such that it overlaps over top of that. While it's not quite all plugged in down here, pull this forward to get the head to pop out. Now you plug the waist in and wrap those things around his spinal cord, and at this point you then pull the head back, push the head back, but keep this layered look going, so hold this down while you push back until it kind of just slots into place back there. There's a little area back here where this gray base his head's attached to kind of just plugs in and sits happily. Then to hold it all together, you take these things and you lay them down. There's a groove cut into them that lays right over that piece. Now your Knockout doesn't look, perfect, but he looks much better than if you tried to follow the stock transformation. Are the proportions perfect? No. Do I clearly see Knockout in this figure? Yes, I do. A lot of his notable details are present here, the top tier item being his front fender fur coat, with its inner venting detail. His forearms look a bit funny due to being folded over roof and window panels, and the wheels on his back could have been higher, but really? I think this is still a decent attempt. Sadly, his robot mode introduces literally no new paint apps outside of the silver on his face. His light piping does work, and if you're handy with a paint wash, he has some sculpted detail on his eyes that can really help bring him to life. Many thanks to Gogdog for pointing that out to me. Knockout's weapon accessory is sadly dead in the water. It's entirely unpainted, and though it resembles an armament from the show, its strange jointed splitting gimmick really brings it down. You can disassemble it to give Knockout a pair of small melee weapons, but the way the two sticks combine right on the part that Knockout is likely to grip just makes it annoying to put in his hands. However, that joint does let the weapon look really cool when stored on his back. Unfortunately, that's the only aspect of it that I really enjoy. This guy's got a lot of joints from his transformation, and in his robot mode, most of them kind of stay for the transformation, and by that I mean the bulk of the stuff in his torso. His waist, there ain't no joint there. I think that there could have possibly been something fit in the bottom of this spinal cord, but between the way that this skirt piece starts off onto the front of the hood, that thing probably wasn't going to move. However, his head does have a decent bit of ball jointedness, and it can tilt around, which I think is very important for Knockout. His arms are pretty good in the shoulders. They've got full range of movement with a bicep swivel, and thanks to the transformation, a bit of a forward, not a curl, but a kind of forward, I'm reaching for stuff in front of me sort of deal. Thing is, you gotta be careful doing that, because you might unhook his Fender fur coat. Now, his elbows are kind of unfortunate. They work, and clearly there is like a very slightly less amount of plastic up here to try to allow them to bend through there. The thing is, if you bend them like that, I don't know if you can notice this, but the plastic on here is actually bending itself somewhat in a way that is not involving joints, in a way that makes me worried it's going to crack one day. So that's kind of a bummer. He can't really bend his elbows safely, mostly just due to the angles and the way that things are bumping against each other. His wrists, though, are pretty cool because they're on a ball, and so they can have a little bit of circular range. His hips are totally fine, as are his thigh swivels, and his knees are great from the transformation. They're almost double jointed. His feet, they kind of have an ankle tilt, and this sort of works. The thing is that there's such a big thing on his heel, it's not really all working in tandem. It kind of works in tandem. Like, if you put him in a wide-legged pose, it'll be fine, but it means that his heels are not really touching the floor, or at least it means that maybe the corner of the heels at most are touching the floor. So it's a little bit spotty, but on the bright side, his feet are long and pointy, so they are good bases to stand on in and of themselves. So his posability is kind of like, for certain poses, he looks great. For certain other poses, it's just not going to work. But I think that there's enough in there to have him, standing at attention, of course, but just enough for him to look a little bit sassy, just a little bit like he's, he knows what's going on. The nice thing is that once this is all done, and everything's locked in place, I mean, aside from bumping stuff out of the way, he doesn't really de-transform when you pose him. And that's the thing I was worried about the first time I messed around with this guy, is because of all the stuff happening in his torso, would it be easy to accidentally de-transform this whole mess? And it isn't. And that's what I like about this guy. It stays kind of solid. The only things that really come out of the way are his shoulder things, or his shoulder-er things, or this stuff around his spinal cord. But the actual main chunk of torso stays in place. So I kind of dig Knockout's posability, even if it's not the greatest thing in the world. It does just enough to make me feel happy. And he looks so pretty, too. Knockout isn't a bad toy, but he carries the burden of cool concepts delivered in fairly mediocre ways. There are plenty of reasons to be turned off this figure, but, I ended up liking him. Despite the unfortunate choices in paint apps, his alt mode is solid. Despite the janked-up instructions in photography, I find his transformation to be really fun. And despite questionable posability, I think his robot mode looks good enough in a small number of positions. There are better Prime RID Deluxes to be had, but if you see something you like in this guy, Knockout's worth the gamble. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus. These gloves are getting warm, so I think I'll snap them off and slip into a latex piece that's a little more constricting.